plagued by his enigmatic past. An employee at a Boston hardware store. Now lives a low-key, silent life to quell his inner demons. But history always comes back to haunt us. And when his platonic late-night partner finds himself hospitalized, following a near-fatal confrontation with the vicious Russian mob, the restless former master of pain must once more employ his lethal skill set. Feral vengeance descends upon all parties as the merciless guardian angel evens the odds. Robert McCall rises early, to get to work at Home Mart. His co-workers, who are unaware of his background, regard and like him. On this particular day, he is currently assisting his friend and co-worker Ralphie in losing weight, and they have lunch together. When McCall asks Ralphie about his lunch, he is happy with his response, that is, until Ralphie bites into his sandwich, revealing that it contains chips. Ralphie is reminded by McCall that he needs to lose weight in order to pass his security guard exam. He also reminds him to always aim for progress, not perfection. McCall started coming to a nearby 24/7 diner where he reads books and has tea because he had trouble falling asleep most nights. The young prostitute, Alina, who it is implied Robert occasionally speaks with, struck up a conversation with him. After eating her pie, the girl goes to call for a cab. That evening, he returns to the diner and encounters the same girl. As they are speaking, a limo drives up across from the diner. Then, she receives a call from Slavi, her pimp. He informs her she has a customer. She initially rejected, but Slavi persists. She reluctantly follows him outside. The following night, McCall finds the girl at the diner but her face is bruised. Giving her a donut from work that he got from work. Uneasy and seeking a calm voice, she chooses to defy their custom and joins him at his table. Even though her true name is Alina, she goes by Teri. While introducing herself, she gives McCall a CD on which she has recorded a solo performance, in an attempt to get his input later. After leaving the diner, the two stroll and converse for some time. As they're about to part ways for the night, an automobile approach. Slavi exits and gives Alina a slap. Slavi approaches McCall, gives him a business card, and advises him to choose a different girl. After that, McCall spends a few days and nights without seeing Alina and is visibly concerned about her safety. The manager of the diner tells him one evening that Alina was severely battered and is now in the ICU. When McCall gets there, he finds Alina's face considerably more smashed and damaged. Additionally, he observes that she is with Mandy, another girl who is sobbing excessively. Later, Mandy passes McCall while sobbing. Introducing himself as a friend, McCall inquiries about Alina. Mandy said that after Slavi struck Alina, she struck him back. Using the card Slavi gave him, McCall enters the office suite above the restaurant, carries an envelope containing $9,800, and offers Alina her freedom in exchange. The goons and Slavi make fun at McCall, who also offer and recommend that he should go home and piss off 9,800 times. McCall starts to leave after returning the money. He nearly walks out, but ultimately chooses to stay and lock the door. He looks at the men closely, taking note of any weapons they might be carrying, then sets his watch for the appropriate moment. A man points his gun at McCall, but McCall snatches the man's arm, causing him to shoot Slavi in the throat instead. Then he pokes that man in the eye with a shot glass. After using his own knife to stab the third man, he obtains a corkscrew and stabs Teri several times. McCall approaches Slavi and tells him what is happening to his body and that he won't be alive for a little while. Slavi asks, "Who are you?" After the killings, Teri, a Russian mobster, travels to Boston to find out what became to Slavi and his guys. To get leads, he collaborates with a gang of dishonest police officers. Thus far, every evidence suggests that there was a gang hit by a rival mafia. McCall discovers Ralphie isn't in at work. A manager informs him that Ralphie submitted his resignation. McCall goes to a restaurant owned by Ralphie's mother. Ralphie is assisting his mother after an apparent accident resulted in a fire. In the meantime, Teddy is taken by one of the corrupt police officers, Frank Masters, to the office of a gangster called John Looney. Teddy and all Russians are insulted by John. Teddy strikes John with an ashtray in retaliation, and Frank dispatches John's thugs. Ramar and Peterson, the other two shady police officers, demand protection money from Ralphie's mother. When McCall discovers them, he says he wants to file a police report. They ignore him and advise him to call 911 until he phones one of them on his personal cell phone. A video that McCall shot of them is played. McCall gives them two options: return the money, or the footage will be aired on news outlets. He is being held at gunpoint by the police, but McCall beats them both easily. After complying, They give Ralphie's mother the money back. Robert going to see Jenny for a refund when he observes Jenny dealing with a man who is stealthily robbing her at gunpoint. With composure, McCall approaches him and hands him the cash. In addition, Jenny's mother's ring is demanded by the rascal. She gives it to him in tears. McCall notices a few things about the man, including his attire and tattoos. He thinks about moving, but decides against it because kids are coming into the business and might get hurt. Rather than turning around, McCall follows the man outside and gets a close-up look at his license plates. Then McCall goes to retrieve a sledgehammer from a rack. The following day Jenny discovers her ring in the register, and McCall is shown putting the sledgehammer back on the rack after cleaning it. Teddy questions Mandy after learning of Alina's disappearance from Slavi's girls, but Mandy responds that she didn't truly know Alina that well. Afterwards, he goes to see Mandy and uses intimidation to get her to admit lying. He forces her to talk about the evening she spent with Alina at the hospital, during which she tells about a compassionate but unidentified black man who also stopped by and asked after Alina, but she never found out his identity. Teddy then kills her by strangulation for deceiving him. Teddy discovers video proof that shows McCall entering the restaurant. He visits McCall at his flat while posing as a detective. McCall recognizes him right away and responds to his queries with prepared responses. Teddy feels McCall is much more than he reveals as he goes. Teddy has the impression that all of their knowledge of McCall is fictitious. McCall is eating at the diner when a guy walks in. McCall makes up the man and inquires as to whether anyone else is waiting. The man pulls out a gun and approaches him. Teddy's view out of his car is obstructed when a truck approaches the eatery. After hitting the man, McCall breaks his neck and slams his head down on the table, killing him. He then inserts a knife into an outlet to turn out the lights. He exits the diner, using his phone to take pictures of Teddy and his men in their vehicle before driving off. Once they find out where McCall lives, the thugs pursue him. While the criminals stealthily enter his house, he boils some honey to treat a gunshot wound. And they got nothing. McCall is actually watching them with hidden cameras from another apartment. Even though McCall has hidden evidence in his flat, Teddy doesn't believe McCall's evidence that he is leaving town and believes he is watching. In reality, McCall leaves town, but only to see Susan Plummer and Brian, two of his old pals. Susan is questioned by McCall for details regarding Teddy and his employers. Susan is on her way to acquire some data. Upon her return, she informs McCall that the men he killed were members of the Vladimir Pushkin-led Russian mafia. Pushkin's go-to man when something needs to be handled decisively is Teddy, whose true name is Nikolai. Peterson and Ramar, who worked for Pushkin, were discovered dead a few days prior, with their testicles pushed into their mouths after being shot. Susan forewarns McCall that these men would not give up until he and all those he holds dear are deceased. With Susan's approval, Robert departs the following morning to become the man he once was and complete the task he began. Frank Masters is apprehended by McCall and imprisoned in his vehicle, which he has equipped with a tailpipe hose. He threatens to leave Frank in the car to die unless he gives him important information regarding Pushkin's operations. At last, Frank gives in and leads McCall to a warehouse where the Russians count and conceal enormous pallets of cash. McCall coerces the thugs into turning themselves in. After that, he releases every employee and pays them a farewell bonus made out of Pushkin's funds. Frank is handcuffed to a post and instructed to file a complaint by him. Frank is taken into custody by the police, after they discover the criminals and the money. McCall visits Frank's safety deposit box and takes out some cash, passports, and a USB drive that has additional information about Pushkin's business dealings and names all the people who are currently employed by Pushkin, such as cops, deputies, politicians, and so forth. McCall provides the anonymous information to the warehouse bus detective. In addition, McCall locates one of Pushkin's oil tankers and bombs it up, along with a warehouse and other trucks. Teddy enlists the assistance of a group of Russian assassins to find and eliminate McCall. The team leader uses the restroom while they are eating supper together. Shortly after, by sitting in front of him and dropping the squad leader's bloody sunglasses, McCall informs Teddy that he won't be returning. During their talk, Robert assures Teddy that he knows exactly who he is and gives him a chance to back out before he completes the job and eliminates the entire company. Teddy shows Robert that he doesn't really matter to him by turning down the offer and acting haughtily. Robert indicates that he isn't afraid to continue and then walks away from the table. Teddy finally believes he has identified a pressure point on McCall when he comes across a photo of Robert leaving work with Ralphie. Threatening to kill Ralphie, Jenny, and other Home Mart employees, two of Teddy's men kidnap them and hold them captive until Frank meets Teddy at the location where he detonated the tanker. The goons are getting ready to kill one of McCall's colleagues when he fails to show up at the scheduled meeting spot. Abruptly, music starts to play on the intercom. Ralphie is taken by one of the mobsters to locate the source, when McCall kills him. Speaking in Russian, McCall calls the second hostage taker away from the captives, and the latter is subsequently executed as well. Teri arrives at Home Mart with his other hired workers. They look for McCall. McCall hangs the one person with barbed wire and stabs another one through the neck. He battles the biggest of the bad guys, taking damage along the way until he kills him. After coming back to assist McCall, Ralphie gets shot in the leg. One of the remaining bad men is lured to the break room by McCall. Teddy is the final man searching for McCall when the sprinklers go off due to the propane explosion. Teddy locates Ralphie and is ready to murder him when McCall emerges from hiding with a stud ramset gun. Teddy is shot multiple times with the gun before McCall approaches Teddy and kills him by shooting him in the throat. Teddy asks, "Who are you?" Then he walks out of the shop. 3 days later, in Moscow, McCall appears in Pushkin's home bathroom while he is taking a shower. McCall alternately switches on and off the lights and runs the sink water till it overflows. After a few minutes of conversation between Pushkin and McCall vanishes. Pushkin goes to the sink to get his weapon. He orders his men when he unexpectedly discovers that McCall has severed the electrical wires and is electrocuted to death. McCall certainly killed everyone in the home, as evidenced by the multiple guard bodies he passes. McCall goes back to Boston to continue his quiet life now that everything has been resolved. Alina approaches him, who is still healing from her wounds. She informs him that she has started reading and has landed a genuine job. She also says that after leaving the hospital, she discovered an envelope containing over $10,000 among her belongings. She gives McCall her sincere gratitude for his efforts before saying their goodbyes. McCall made an advertisement for those who felt stuck, with no way out and all the odds against them. The two most important days in your life are the day you were born, and the day you found out why, is attributed to Mark Twain. For more videos similar to this, don't forget to subscribe and enable notifications. Thank you for watching.